Ready for the interview, and if you get a cue live on the laptop, watch what I'm gonna do. Welcome to the show, let them know we got a point of view. Hey, yo, let's have a combo. Say what you feel, be real, that's the motto. Real talk pronto, Dr. D, PhD, hit an intro. Hold up, wait, gotta be social. Network global, a home for the local. Gotta be social. Network global, a home for the local.
Back again, Dr. D's Social Network. Brian, as I said before we started, I'm just happy that we're on here together. Just thanks you for giving me your time and for allowing me to come project your story and what you've been up to. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
When this came across me, your story, I said, man, this is a good story. This is a story I want to get out there. There's a lot going on that I think you have accomplished, that you have done. But let's start with something that seemed like a very important part of your life, which was your service in the military and your experience, your near-death experience that you've had that seemed to be very shaping in terms of where you're at now.
Thank you for that. Yeah, picking up where the near-death experience happened in Iraq. We were on a bridge. It was toward the end of my 1-year tour service duty in Iraq. And most people ask me, were you on the front line? Were you shooting? Were you killing? And everybody have to answer that in a way that it opens their eyes. I was a humanitarian. What I did, I was rebuilding the infrastructure, starting projects. So my life was in danger a lot more than other soldiers because of the work that I was doing. Towards the end of this tour, and it's like for the whole 10 months that we were actually in Iraq on ground and creating these projects, rebuilding the Iraqis' infrastructure, we didn't have any bombings or didn't have any incident. It's like we had just missed it the day before. And every time we would go out, we had just missed it. So my life was like on a balance scale. Am I going to live today or am I not going to live today? 10 months into it, we're almost leaving. One of the last missions, we got hit by a bomb. And I was supposed to have been on that last vehicle that got hit behind us. So on that bridge, when we got hit, it was like a movie. And it was like I was cursing God. I was like, God, where are you? And in the military, they taught us that there's 2 bombs. The first bomb is to stop the convoy. The second bomb is sorry.
We're good. Yep.
Sorry. But the second bomb was to kill as many people as possible. I was waiting for that second bomb, right? And I was cursing God. I said, God, you're here, you're real. And I was fumbling for my goggles because I said, this second bomb hit. And I survived, at least with my eyesight. And so I remember praying on that bridge because it's weird getting hit by a bomb, by enemy attack, and you don't know where they are. To the east of you, desert. To the horizon. To the west of you, to the horizon is desert. And there's one rocky road with no traffic light. And it was an eerie feeling. And that moment of death ringing around, soldiers begging for their lives. And I'm waiting to engage in enemy pods, but there was no enemy to engage. Working and I'm looking, and I'm just this whirlwind of thought. Fast forward, that trauma catapulted me to do some soul searching very deep and very quickly. As we all know that most soldiers come home and there's a high number of soldiers committing suicide. I was going to be in that statistic if I didn't have a plan. And so before I left Iraq, there was a group of soldiers sitting at a table. And we all said, if we survive Iraq, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Well, when it got to me, so I'm going to move to Hollywood and I'm going to be on TV. I didn't know anything about manifestation. I didn't know. I just spoke it. 8 months later, I'm on the red carpet and I'm in Hollywood and I'm standing next to Albert soap opera stars. I'm like, pinching myself. I'm literally pinching myself. I'm be real. This is confusing. But before I got to Hollywood, it was a struggle. It was a struggle trying to get to Hollywood. It was a struggle, not just Hollywood, filmmaking, following my doing what makes me. And when I was in Alabama, I grew up in Alabama. So when I came home from Iraq, I went back to Alabama to figure out life. I was in the reserve. And so I was a part-time military soldier where you do 1 weekend per month. And so when I came back from this Rambo-infested environment, that's three weapons, Beretta, M4, and a machine gun like Rambo, and feeling almost untouchable. And it's okay. Thank you for your service. You can go to school, go start a family, do that. But I was like, I need healing. Yeah. I just think the process, everything that just took place, to go back to work and to go back into society, I would be a hazard to society. I would cause chaos because I just left a chaotic environment. Contemplating suicide, and I don't take it lightly, but I'm smiling because I'm on the positive side of it.
Right.
His voice telling me, go to California, go to film school, do what you want to do, what makes you happy. You know, the trouble because I felt like Pinocchio. The family's dynamic, and my mother, I had a brother who was in the army, and he had went to Iraq. He had survived. So it's like a mother having two sons that went to serve in the war, and then they both came home safely, somewhat mentally. And now her youngest son is talking about leaving and go to California. Oh, my mother lost it. And I felt like Pinocchio. I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to see my mother hurt. So I have to do this for me. And moving to LA was like my higher self talking to me and says, if you're going to heal, you're going to heal away from your family.
Mm.
And so that's when the journey began. And in 2013, November, I remember landing the floor of my apartment in Koreatown in Los Angeles, California. And I was there, and I had just got laid off my entertainment job that I was working. And I said, I got a nice unemployment check coming. And I was like, coming from Alabama, I said, I'm not possible for this for a minute, and just take a breath from Iraq, working, because I left Iraq, came to Alabama, and went to LA and just continued working. Never really processed what I experienced in Iraq. So November 2013, when I got laid off, I'm just going to hibernate. It's the 9/11. That's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And I remember I don't watch television. And I started that back in 2008 because I wanted my transmitter to be open to receiving that voice that people were hearing. I said, I want to be able to receive that, but I couldn't have distraction. So on the floor of my apartment in Koreatown in Los Angeles, I says, man, I'm going to take 6 months off. Never just not done anything for 6 months and just left. And her voice came through it and it says, if you don't take this time out to do some self-development, shame on you. It went away. Ever since then, my foot has been on the pedal, and I have not let off since. Acting was what drew me to Los Angeles. Shit. But then I discovered it was the awakening, my higher self wanting to blossom through my creativity of filmmaking. And so that's what led to where I am now. And on that discovery, on that journey, I discovered 3 things: make my life simpler, to love myself unconditionally at every moment. Love yourself at every moment. No judgment of any kind. Number 2, no judgment of any kind to myself, because I was blaming myself for what happened in Iraq and I could have done more. Maybe I should have been the one that had died and not the other soldier with children, and I didn't have any children. And so it was a lot of guilt I was putting on myself. So 1, no unconditional love to myself. I had to practice that. No judgment of any kind, and practice forgiveness. Simple. Once I start practicing those 3 things simultaneously, it was difficult at first, reprogramming my brain, because my Alabama brain, the environment that I grew up, and no shade on my Alabama culture and my community, but it was a limited mindset. The limited mindset. When I think about it, unconditional love, the opposite of unconditional is conditional. So I realized I was operating on conditional love. I was like, I don't love me, because I put conditions on my love. only if I can do something great, then I love myself. So how I treat myself is how I'm going to treat you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not fair. I said, work on yourself, buddy. I took a 6-year-old picture of myself. I said, apologize for being so mean to you and degrading to you and talking down to you when you don't finish projects that you don't finish. I said, I'm sorry. I said, create 1,000 projects. I said, I don't care. I'll love you unconditionally and I'll have no judgment. And so that's been the journey of walking in a spiritual light of unconditional love so that I can give the best quality of essence of the people everywhere I go.
Thank you for sharing that. That was really awesome. I want to go backwards a little bit and talk a little bit about the environment that you grew up in and the limiting mindsets. I think it's good for people to understand fully about where you've come from and also to help embrace what you're currently doing. You talk about the Alabama mindset. Again, no shade to Alabama. I have some awesome friends in Alabama, and I love going to places that are different things. I grew up in a military family. I understand going all over the world stuff. But what was that like? What was that environment? What was so limiting in your point of view with that?
Again, it was the condition that I watched, not just from my family, from the family environment, my social environment, my work environment, the church. When I would watch different churches, people who went to church every day, I would watch their conditional love being expressed. I would watch their judgmental ways being expressed. I would watch and listen to their unforgiving ways to themselves. And I adopted that. It's like Charlotte's Web. You become part of the environment if you don't have the awareness. Most people don't have the awareness to shift and change and understand that we're operating on borrowed beliefs. Ancestors before ancestors had a thinking and they pass on to their children and their children. But if you don't question, that's what I did. I questioned my observation of the environment that I was growing up in. And I was operating on that operating system like a computer chip.
Right.
I was operating, I was not getting the results that I wanted. And I was like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I not have solutions to the problems that arise in my life? I'm a man. I feel like I'm a Black man. I need to be strong. And I can't be out here looking weak. And so in the environment, even to this day, and not just Alabama, I'm only using Alabama because that's where I am and that's where I grew up and that's where I choose to give back, pour back into my community, knowledge, power. So growing up in a limited society of conditional love and watching people, how they love each other, very conditional. Like when I would see romantic relationships, a guy may say to a woman that she wants to leave, hey, you're leaving with my heart. You're leaving with my heart. I gave you my time. And then most men were ready to commit violence. And so I had to reshape my definition of love. Love should be unconditional. If I'm dating someone and the woman says she wants to leave, my thought pattern, the highest form of love, would be to allow them to leave and find love on their own terms. Do not own them. They're not my property. So I would see this time and again in relationships. I was like, this looks very like. And so these are the limiting beliefs and ideas that I think it's everywhere, not just in Alabama. It's everywhere. In Los Angeles, it's all over the globe, international. And so what I discovered was a method to love yourself. If you're operating unconditional, it's the law of polarity. Balance the opposite. Conditional is the opposite of unconditional. Judgment is the opposite of no judgment. Not being able to forgive is the opposite of being able to forgive yourself. And so growing up in Alabama, that's what I understood. And it was a positive, being able to take a positive and turn it into a negative, transmute that energy. It's so beautiful.
Did you ever face any resistance for the questions you had, or that you were like, this is not what I'm feeling? Like, this feels different to me.
I think a lot of people probably could relate when I say that anytime I asked questions, no one knew the answer to them. So there was a lot of ridiculed the questions. And I was a very question asking kid. And I was asking, what if this and what if that? But nobody knew the answers. And I think a common term would be like, why? Because I said so, right? Or because, I don't know, God knows, or whatever the case may be, right? But that's a limiting mindset from my perspective, because it doesn't give me the tools to navigate this life of understanding who I am. And if people around me don't have the answers, I'm left to discover the answers for myself. So even discovering the answers, operating in unconditional and coming back to a society that still operates in conditional love, it's still very challenging because people are programmed in their ways of conditional love. And so when I show up with unconditional love, I say, speak your heart. I have no judgment. Curse, do whatever you want, say whatever you want. Nothing's gonna offend me. And they're teetering the ice. They're like, if I say this, what are you gonna say? You had no reaction. And then everything just the floodgates just come out. And they say, oh, being around you. Like, cool person, because I'm not judging them, because I don't judge myself.
Yeah. So what was the motivation to go into your military service? Was that part of exploring yourself or gaining a bigger understanding of the world and non-limiting beliefs?
Oh, yes. My brother went into the Army, and I went to his basic training. And I'm a goofball. I'm an actor. I just like to express stuff, do voices. So I'm always entertaining. And I went to his graduation of basic training, and they were doing skits, mimicking the drill sergeant. I was like, what? I was like, they doing this? I was like, oh, my. Then, and I saw 200 soldiers turn left simultaneously. I was like, I've never seen that done before. I think 200 soldiers stand up. I was like, oh my God. So going to my brother's graduation sparked that. But the number one thing that sparked it was 9/11, because I remember 9/11, just graduating high school and watching it on TV and thinking, this is real. I was like, this is real. And that's another drive that because I was like, I'm going to support my country no matter what. I'm going to sign up young. I think most teenagers feel like they're untouchable, indestructible. And I felt that. And I was young, you're strong. I'm going to put on this armor and I'm going to help. And so that was my mindset of the motivation of me joining the military. And I remember when I was in basic training at 19 years old, phones were taken. All I had was a Bible. I was like, oh, gotta read. Keep reading, right? I'm a smart individual. But reading to me bores me because my mind it creates movies because I have a creative mindset. I'm creating movies. I'm gonna sit there and read so I have to control my brain. Anyway, I was like forced to read the Bible. I was like, okay, what am I gonna read? What am I gonna look for? Wisdom was what I asked. Because when I look back on it, I was like, where did all this come from? Why do I have the inspiration? It was something I asked for at 19, joining the military. And I didn't know that was the journey that I needed to travel to get to where I am today. But I asked for wisdom. I was reading King Solomon. I was like, oh, jeez. God, and baby with him. Yeah, and I want that too. And that's what I asked for. And who knew 20-something years later that the wisdom would come in the form of trauma, but it was beautiful and it was eloquent. But that was the driving force. 9/11 and seeing my brother, watching his basic training, mimic the drill sergeants. I was just being while I'm in the military.
Did you always have this drive for creativity, acting, growing up in Alabama? It was pretty early, right?
Yeah. Oh, I remember watching Beverly Hillbilly. Then I'm fixing the television. I'm like, I'm gonna go to Beverly Hills. I can do that. And I remember mimicking almost all the cartoon characters. Yeah. I was like, I can do that too. Oh, there people, it's money, it's going. And I was like, where is this? And I was like, where is this coming from? It would just come out. I remember in elementary school, we just do voices, right? Call people. Yeah.
I remember the prank call stuff. Yeah. It felt like we're a very similar age for that. So I definitely remember that stuff. So it felt like Hollywood or film it was there. This was deeply embedded in you that this was going to be somewhere in your life at some point. And you're in that apartment in Koreatown and you're thinking, I got to make this happen. I'm going to do this. What was the start to get you to get to where you're now when you've worked on different shows and Emmy winning whole thing? What was that beginning to get into that business?
At 19, I wanted to go. And I knew that it was premature. I didn't have the mindset. I was a slave to money. I was a slave to the material world. Anybody dangled anything in front of me, I would have probably just did anything in my mind that was undeveloped, that didn't know how to say no. I didn't have the voice that I have now, the protection. It was following the guidance, following the intuition, following the discernment. I knew that I was going to get there, but I just didn't know how. It was just constantly networking. I said to myself, constantly put it out to people, talk it, speak it into existence. And they always say the 6 degrees of separation. Talk, this person said, oh, I got a cousin. Even way here in Alabama, like, I had a cousin that works out in Hollywood. He does something. I don't know. Maybe I'll give you his number.
Yeah.
There was a guy when I was working at a restaurant, and in walks this guy, and I had a very keen ear to, I knew when somebody wasn't from my city. They had a strong voice, and they enunciated their words, and it was like, yeah, you're not from me. Now here we talking this right here, you know what I'm saying? Hey man, you know what I'm saying? Mama name, this is what you talk. And this guy comes in, and he's talking he's articulate, he's enunciating, he's a brother. And I made his food, and the food was cold. Well, he came back up to the front counter and demanded his money back. He says, I ordered food and I paid good money for my food. And he says, it's cold. He says, I want my money back. I heard it and I was like, oh my God, I was a cook. I was like, I feel so sorry. So I made his food fresh and brought it out for him, gave his money back. Recognized it that since I said, this guy looks like Hollywood. It was something about him. My intuition just said, ask him. And he was a camp operator in my city visiting. He was older than me, so he was coming home, visit his mother. And I asked him, I says, hey, can I come work with you one day? And he says, sure, young man. He was testing me out and whatever the case. And he let me come out to the Grammy Award in 2006 and be his camera assistant. And I got the chance with Mariah Carey, Fantasia when she first came out, Chris Brown, and Kanye, Jamie Foxx, and I watched Madonna. I was like, oh my God, I was like, I'm here. And I got my first taste of just being in the entertainment industry through him by way of my own city, just being aware and just asking. And that, him allowing me to come out to California from over short periods of time, grew my desire to think I can achieve it. And so that was the foundation of me actually coming into the business of Hollywood, and the rest of the history. Acting, I would do Tyler Perry. I would drive to Atlanta and I would be an extra on Tyler Perry's House of Pain. And people say, hey, I saw you on TV. I was like, oh, you did? I was like, oh, I'm inching close to that Hollywood fame, baby.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. And it was like, just moving with the excitement, enthusiasm, and just learning, constantly listening to my intuition, and not listening to my intuition, yet learning. And I just never gave up. And do have a cousin, Blair Underwood. He's a cousin of mine. And
I think the resemblance. A little, yeah.
People say,
seriously, yeah.
People say that. I do get it a lot. Yeah. But I was like, he could do it. I could do it. And it was just being people that was part of my family. And I was like, do it. I'm going to do it. And so it was networking and just basically using my intuition to guide, discernment that I had. And connected with a producer that got me on Read the People with Gloria Allred. That was my first acting job when I made it to Hollywood. Was a bailiff on a court show called We the People with Gloria Allred, under the production of Byron Allen. And I was a bailiff. I was a bailiff, enjoyed it. I was like, wow. I went from Iraq to now on TV. I said, this is amazing. I said, wow, things like and things are working in my favor. And Byron was so great to me. And he asked me, he said, young man, knew I just came back from Iraq. He says, I like what you're doing. He says, what else can I do for you? And I was like, I want to do some camera operating and some more acting. He said, consider it done. I was like, wow. I said, it's easier than that. And the rest is history of just saying yes to everything that was asked of me. Because I was learning. I was collecting knowledge that I was going to take back to Alabama and build my own empire.
Yeah. When you say networking, would love to dive a little bit deeper to what you mean by that. Because I think there's a connotation sometimes negative about networking for that. But what does that mean for you, networking, that was positive?
The networking that was positive for me was listening to my intuition say, get on the site, you might find somebody. And I did. Look for this. Look for that. Look for this person. Look for people in Los Angeles area. And even from dating sites, I would be on dating sites and I would only be looking at people from Los Angeles. And I would connect with women who were working, who had on their profiles, they were in the industry. And then I connected, we talked, and that was part of my networking. I had no limitations to how I was networking. And so even that opportunity led me to Byron Allen. And so that's from my experience. And so I just followed my intuition of just being an investigator in my own right. Everybody's an investigator to a degree. Everybody could find information they wanted to. So my networking was basically telling everybody that I came in contact with what my intentions were. And that, again, they would say, I have a cousin who lives in LA. I don't know what he does, but I can give you his number. And that was another form of networking that I discovered.
I love that. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I want to know, in your thought process, how people can listen to their intuition more keenly.
You can listen to your intuition more keenly by minimizing the noise. There's a lot of distractions around driving. You have to think about it. We're doing more than one. We're driving, we're playing defense, we're playing offense, and some of us are talking on the phone and we're listening to the radio. That's a lot of distractions if we are aware of it or not. And so we're multitasking. The brain is all over the place. Can't even really think properly. So to properly listen to your intuition and have that discernment, there needs to be your antenna, your awareness needs to, your minimizing distractions gonna be ideal to hearing your inner self. Being afraid to listen to your inner self, the dialogue that may come up, the judgment that may come up, the conditional love that may come up. You say, you didn't do this and you're this. The lack of forgiveness may come up, or the past experiences, the trauma may come up. I had trauma as a kid and I'm still dealing with it. So really listening to your intuition has to do with minimizing television watching, minimizing what keeps your attention, and really, instead of being on the internet, go in the inner net of one's self.
Yeah.
And listen to all the internet, social media, nothing but a billion thoughts in 1 nanosecond. We have that as well. There's a billion thoughts happening right in an instant moment, and we could just go through. There was a show where they would show like an elephant's foot, and they said, what was it? They were like, elephant's foot. The brain is constantly, because I call it the brain, God mind. Everybody operates off God mind, but everybody doesn't know how to use God mind. And so in that God mind, what I mean by God mind is it's the totality of thought. It is the creation. It is all things. It's there. It's planted in a big hard drive. It's unlimited. And so minimizing the distractions allows you to focus what it is that you want to really focus on. Otherwise, you're just blocking yourself from yourself.
Yeah. I am totally on board with this. My last podcast episode, we were talking a lot about intuition. And I was mentioning, I said, something I see that I think is an interesting thing is when people walk their dogs, they're now usually on their phone walking their dog. And I
Right.
found that interesting, but I said, this is a disconnect because it's a great opportunity to be close to your pet and be in nature and to be active. But when we take, but we add this distraction of looking down and inundating our brain with stuff, we are taking away that connection that we have with our own thoughts, with the beauty of being active with your pet and looking at the sky and wondering and having awe at your environment. You literally block that when you do that. And I had someone contact me and say, I'm guilty of that. I do that. I said, I think we try to distract ourselves because it's very sometimes painful to be close to ourselves.
Yes. They always talk about being present. They smell the roses. Some people, it's like a poet, like poetry. People think of poetry. Oh, stop and smell the roses. No, stop and smell the roses. Stop and be present. Stop and listen to your foot hitting the pavement. Listen to your dog's claw.
Yes.
The pavement.
Clacking. Yes. Yes.
Yes. It may tell a story. So a blind person may pick up and hear something different. I had an interaction with a blind person and somebody came and tapped him on the shoulder. He said, you don't know who this is. And then the blind person says, yes, I do. You're someone. He says, I heard you coming down the hallway. He says, you have a certain rhythm of your foot. He said, you scuff the bottom of your shoe. He says, so I know it's you and you wear a certain cologne. Made me understand and listen to people's footsteps, even just being present in the moment allows that opportunity. And also the benefits of being present and minimizing distraction allows you to interact with each other and listen to each other. When I discovered that a lot of people don't listen to each other, a lot of people are passive listening. They're listening to response like a tennis match. You say something and I say something. You say something and I say something. And you say something, but nobody's really listening. Really listening, being present in the moment. It's a distraction. Brains are constantly distracted from ourselves. We don't know how to basically tone the God mind down and just relax and just be present. Let me focus on what's right in front of me. And I think now people are now on their phones. I'm guilty of it. I feel like a creep as a man walking around, looking around. Women think I'm just a creep because I don't have my phone. If I'm in public and I'm not on my phone and I'm doing like this, it feels weird. Like I'm sitting there waiting on something. I can cross my arms and I give people head nods. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
But I'm practicing minimizing my phone interactions when I go places and just leaving my phone at home. But this helps with intuition, helps with clarity, helps with that discernment to minimize your distraction. If you're on your phone, you're either entertaining yourself or you're educating yourself. And most people are entertaining their God mind instead of educating the God mind and remembering who they are and the power that they actually. A lot of people are afraid of the power because I was afraid of mine. I'm guilty of it. It's just part of the power.
Yeah, you're totally right. And it's interesting. I do that practice too. It's funny. You're at a point where you have to be self-conscious that you may be creepy for not having your phone out when you're waiting in line or you're just out. I do this. I literally just sit at places and I just look around. And it's like, it is what we used to do.
I know, right? No, right?
You just look around, you take in your environment, you observe visually, auditorily what's happening. And it's also a safety issue too, to know what's happening in your environment as well.
Exactly.
And we're deadening that feeling. We're deadening our survival response too by having so much distraction.
So it's like, me, I'm on my phone, I'm busy, and I'm important. I have things to do. I have things to do. What do you have to do? Why aren't you on your phone? Don't you have some business to attend to? Oh, my phone. Scroll. I'm really looking at nothing. All right. Come across the here. And all right. That's what I'm thinking. Okay. Go to my mailbox. Okay, there's nothing there. Just check it out.
Look at it. Yeah.
I'm just looking at it. It's the phone now. If I put it down, they're going to think I'm busy. I'm going to help me down. Hey, how you doing? It's like reprogramming ourselves. Was the norm a few years ago, 10 years ago. And now, not the norm. So readapting to where we're going, and basically to be conscious of what the phones are doing to our mind.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And I always tell people, like, you want to activate your creativity, you want to be creative. Seriously, go stare at the sky. Look at the sky. Look at a tree.
Yes.
Just and take away the distraction, you'll be flooded with ideas.
It's very important to just stargaze, looking at the clouds and just listening and watching, observing the environment. I love when the trees are, not the trees, the birds are
Yes.
chirping. And they're like singing the songs. I see blue jays. I'm like, oh. When I go cut my mother's grass, they all come out. The blue jays come out, the cardinals come out, and the other birds come out. And they're eating the grass. It's almost like they're saying, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big gardener. I love gardening. And it's a great way to disconnect and just be there with nature. And it teaches you patience and you get creative looking at plants, watching them grow, watering something, building.
watering plants is like watering your mind.
Yes.
Planting a seed, you are the seed. Watch yourself grow. If you're watching seeds grow, as above, so below, as above. That axiom or that statement from the Kabbalah, as above, so below, as below, so above. Whatever's happening in the dirt, in the mineral kingdom, is happening also on the human level. So we can learn from nature about ourselves. We open our minds to the unlimitless opportunities of just creative thought, of utilizing gardening, just being one with the grass and nurturing the grass. I treat the grass like my hair. If the grass gets too dry, there's no rain, I have to keep my hair moisturized.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like the grass. So I learned from the environment.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the environment teaches us so much. The cycle of living and dying and growing and changing and building. It's just like you said, the antenna has to be up. If you want to get a good signal, you have to clear all of the barriers around the signal. And I like to use those kind of analogies a lot. You have to go to a higher ground to get a better signal. Higher ground. Right? You can't get stuck in the weeds to get a good signal. So I resonate with that quite a bit.
Exactly. Going to a higher ground, going to a higher state, you have to be able to see yourself outside of yourself with your imagination. See yourself on the mountaintop looking down at yourself and says, hey, take that direction. You better take that route and take this route. That was one of my gifts, being able to practice seeing myself outside of myself. It took practice, and I was like, I'm crazy. I was like, no, it's actually helpful to see yourself on a higher plateau, to see yourself as the highest version of yourself, and to say, that wouldn't be a good choice. Go this route. And I do that with food and living. My mental health, my spiritual health, and my physical health, all right now in balance with knowledge and alkalinity, acids, understanding, removing my mucous membrane, making sure that I don't remove too much mucous membrane so that it doesn't clog up my lungs and cause pneumonia, or it doesn't cause sinusitis or bronchitis. So I'm aware of just the health and staying in balance. Balance is the highest form of knowledge that I've found on my journey. It's about balance with everything that we thoughts are mental. Don't be over extreme, don't be under. You can be, but the results are going to vary. I found out that I operate best when I'm in total balance. I'm speaking at a certain level. I'm thinking at a certain level of balance and peace and harmony. I'm not reacting and then thinking later. I used to, but I still have to practice that. Not reacting, pause, okay, be balanced. And so being the light, people to mimic. And I always say, yes, greatness will be mimicked.
Yes. Oh, for sure. That being the light, that's a daily prayer for me, is be a light to others, be a light. And I think that we struggle in our larger society because I feel like sometimes it feels like you get rewarded for not being a light. And what is that reward? Like that is subjective. Is a click a good reward? Is attention, even if it's negative, a good we have to shift this, reframe. We look at a light as not actually a very viral thing. Oh, okay,
Right.
you're a nice person, but over here, there's all this controversy. I'm gonna say,
Right.
I want to be led. I get pulled towards that, and so I think I'm on a mission to. I want the light to be the main source, not the negative stuff that creates a lot of virality. But
Yes.
listen, being a light, it takes a lot of work, and it's very intentional.
Oh,
Like listen, I could get anyone on my podcast and say a bunch of controversial stuff to try to get it to do whatever
yes.
it could be. That's not that hard. I just say a bunch of stuff that's untrue, that compromises my integrity and goes towards clicking. But that will ultimately not lead me to me being who myself and being a light. And there's a
Exactly.
fight against that happening.
Yes. Yes. Since the beginning, there's been darkness and
Right.
light. When God created itself, darkness and light were brothers, and they had the law of polarity.
Yeah.
So now, as we get to know thyself, because that's the first law of human, know thyself. If you don't know yourself, easily be slave to the dark. Until you recognize that I am both darkness and light. How do I know? And I'm getting ready to do a YouTube series on the controlling the beast within. And that beast has to do with violence and pummeling things with this anger and violence of men. And it's like, I'm controlling it intellectually. So there's a beast, I'll say, it's Incredible Hope, the story of Incredible Hope.
Yeah.
I heard was basically David Banner's character. It's just he's a scientist. And when he gets angry, he turns into a beast. The adrenaline gets activated inside the veins. And then we can do superhuman feats under the influence of adrenaline. Violence for 5 or 10 minutes or 30 minutes. And then once that adrenaline wears off, then it's like, watch what's controlling that beast, the dark side. Control the beast that lies dormant, that has a cage with no lock on it, and it has no owner. So it's like somebody steps on your shoe, like step on my shoe, just bump my shoulder. And the beast is, that dark side. Yeah, you ain't got me on a leash. You don't even know it. But you're not even gonna just keep me in cage. I'm gonna commit chaos once I come out, right? So controlling the dark and the light within one's self. Darkness and light have always been here. So the darkness is a battle always. So I think the pendulum has now swung. It's been in the dark for so long. Now the must swing back to the light because we are light working. And it only takes a few of us light to shine light on the dark.
Yeah. I'm curious as someone who's an actor, producer, but specifically as an actor, how does playing someone else help you know yourself better?
Oh, wow. It allows me to reach certain levels of behaviors and characteristics that lies dormant within me. And I understand, I believe that we are all from the source, which is all things. So it allows me to play with the different variations, different extensions, and different levels, stretching myself. And it's super helpful. Improv. Improv is when I was in LA doing improv, that means thinking on your feet. You say this, you say that. You never deny what somebody says. You're a rabbit with bunny ears and you have rainbow colors. You can't deny it. You just come up with something else. And so it's that improv allowed me to just basically touch my brain and open out within such a limited, compartmentalized mindset. And so just being an actor allowed me to stretch my personality. And it's like, when I saw myself on camera, I was horrified. I was like, dude, you're facial. Dude, you need to be, I'm like, oh, buddy. I was like, you need to start going and get those facials, buddy. You need to start doing a routine. You start working on your beauty, whatever case, And so it allowed me to present myself to the world as I am a light worker to basically, and also it helps me to put my message out. My gifts, utilizing my gifts when I'm talking about the light.
Yeah.
They can receive it more. It's entertaining. We're nothing but big children. We're big children that want to be entertained.
Right.
So I can go there. I can be entertaining, but that's what it takes. In the midst of the entertainment, put the food in. Unconditional, learn, no judgment. So I can be controversial, but yet have a fine balance between the darkness and the light, the controversy and non-controversy. But at the end, I could put unconditional love, no judgment, and forgiveness. I can do sitcoms. I can build my own set. I can do the lighting. That's what I was studying, so I can come back here. And so in my messages, in my future messages of story, I'm going to be a conscious creator. I have to learn the cause and effect of what I put out. And so just being an actor just allows me to be not stiff and just be more expressive. And also when I would hear myself on camera, I would mumble. I had that Alabama mumble.
Yeah.
I'm like that. I'm talking like Elmer. I had no period. It was just my center.
Yeah.
And people go, huh? I was like, oh, I'm not repeat myself. I'm gonna say my own. So being an actor allowed me to enunciate. It was like I can't hear myself on camera when I watch playback. Yeah, couldn't hear myself. So if I was the viewer, I would be confused. I said, "Open your mouth, buddy," and people won't be saying, "Oh."
Yeah. Brian, this has been really enlightening, really good. Just for me, this is part of my meditation, is speaking to people on my podcast that I don't know and learning their story and getting their story out there. So thank you for this opportunity. And how could people, I like to say, how can people get to know you better outside of what we're doing here?
I do have a website, Brian, Brian Consulting. Oh, Brian Isom, Brian, last name Isom, Isom as in Mary, consulting.com. And I am on social media as Black Buddha, BLAK, Buddha, BUDHA, the number 9. Now, I'm still working on my content. The filmmaker, it can't be perfect. I'm just going to be this way. And that's how you can reach me. And I'll be starting a YouTube channel. And you'll be able to find a YouTube channel through my website and my Instagram links.
Awesome. Everyone, Brian was awesome. I think we could all say that. That was pretty good. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Oh, I came in peace and I leave you with peace.